Hey there, this is Chris Goff, and in this training video, I'm going to show you how to create multiple lease option offers to sellers that will help your acceptance ratio of yeses. Now, the typical investor, they go out, they make only one offer, which makes it easy for the seller to say no. Then there's this back and forth negotiation, which usually leads into one party putting their foot down and creating an uncomfortable situation, ultimately leading to a no. It's not a deal. You then find yourself moving on to the next one. And the worst part is that you're repeating the same mistake. I think this is where you have to make 100 offers to get one deal saying came from. Well, if you're making 100 offers to get one deal, you are doing something wrong. Now, making multiple offers gives the seller options, something to choose from, which will create a more positive result. I know when I got started in making multiple offers, my acceptance ratio went up by 60%. And I want to show you how I do it in this new training video. Now, here's the things that we're going to cover in this training video. Number one is, how do you determine seller motivation? This is really the key and trick to the business of determining the best types of offers that you're going to give the seller. Also, how do we actually put the numbers together and package that in a way to get the seller to say yes, as well as determining the numbers for your new buyer. So not only am I going to show you exactly how we make multiple lease option offers, I'm going to show you how to sell it to the new buyer and structure the numbers there as well. Now, keep in mind, we are only working with one strategy. And anyone that out there that knows me, hey, look, you need to be making multiple offers, from a cash offer, from a seller finance offer, as well as a lease option offer. But one of the great things about lease options is you can make multiple lease option offers, which is phenomenal. I'm going to show you how to do that. Here's what I'm not going to cover. I am not going to be talking about the entire lease option strategy. If you want to learn more about this strategy, you could go inside our education center inside of REI Pro, or you could visit my YouTube channel where I have a 3-part series on from beginning to end on lease options. You can also attend a live training with me at our Real Estate Investing Success Conference, September 8th and 9th. It's going to be in Atlanta, Georgia. It's going to be phenomenal. If you've never been to one of our events, highly recommend it to be here. So be sure to get registered. We always sell out, and we do have a smaller class size. This is not an event that has 100 people in there and tries to sell you up into a $40,000 coaching program. You are going to get 100% education, and I've got a lot of awesome guest speakers that are coming with me to do this, so you definitely want to mark this on your calendar and get registered. All right, most importantly, I want to start right here, because to me, this is really the key to the business, and it's learning how to determine what that seller motivation is. The very first thing that I talk about is their situation. See, in real estate, you're really not even looking for houses anymore. You're looking for situations. See, the seller's situation will dictate and determine what's going to happen with that house. Now, simple situations such as divorces or being, in pre-foreclosure, those are pretty obvious, but what is their situation? You might come across a for sale by owner. You're going to have to determine what's their situation. Are they just moving out of state? Is there health reasons? Are they upsizing, downsizing? What is their situation? Because that in itself right there is going to help us determine the best offers for this seller. I don't think this is a business where, hey, you just run the numbers, here's what it is, and that's just the way it goes. No, I think we need to take everything into this equation of, hey, what's their motivation? Find out their situation, as well as their time frame. How quickly do they need to sell? Do they need to sell in order to buy another property? Do they just maybe want more cash flow and they're willing to go long term? What is their time frame? And what do they want versus what they need? Now, this will go hand in hand with their situation. You can tell me all day long, and trust me, I get it. Hey, look, every seller wants as much as they can for the property. That doesn't mean that's what it's going to sell for. That doesn't mean that's the offer that they're going to accept. So we really need to find out, what is it that they want? Then we look at, okay, what do they need? Because look, if you're moving and maybe your mother-in-law has some health issues and you have to move, well, you're going to have a mortgage payment on this vacant property. So although they want to sell right away, they may just have to take one of your other creative financing offers just to keep that mortgage payment paid. So keep that in mind. I want you to take these three pieces right here, and this is really going to help us determine the best type of offers. Just a couple of tips when you're speaking to the owner. I want you to start thinking this, and it's really, sometimes it's challenging to educate people and how you format information and give it to you. And the very first things that I think of when I'm speaking with the owner is, okay, is there what I call their pet peeve or their motivation? Is it based on price? Is the seller looking for top dollar? Or are they willing to maybe come down a little bit on the price? Is their concern maybe the down payment? Maybe they want a big, hefty down payment because they need some cash right now. They're willing to do the deal, but they need some cash right now for possible moving expenses or whatever it may be. That could be their pet peeve. Or maybe is it the monthly payment? Maybe they need a strong monthly payment. Maybe they have a high interest rate and they need to cover that mortgage bill. Length of time. How long are they willing to go? That's really the key. Obviously, us as investors, we want the seller to go as long as possible. And a seller generally wants to go as short as possible, and it's finding out that length of time. What is their pet peeve? Maybe they only have so much time they have to do something with the property. Or is their concern or pet peeve the quality of the buyer? So I want you to take all of these pieces, and when you're doing a property inspection, you're talking with the seller on the phone, I want you to be thinking about this and listening to what they are saying. They will give you tips and where their pet peeve is going to be, because this ultimately right here is going to help us determine the best type of offer. Where do these numbers need to be to get the seller to say yes? I hate just throwing numbers out there. I analyze everything from the property to the seller situation, what numbers that we can do, what numbers a new buyer will come in and actually pay. And I want to take all of these moving parts into one and make the best offer possible, because I need the seller to say yes. Without that, we're never going to make money. So what actually makes up a lease option offer? Well, number one, there's a sales price. So we have the option to buy or not buy. There must be a sales price. Next is what we call down payment. The legal term is called option money. So this down payment is deducted from the purchase price if the buyer ends up buying. Monthly payment. I like to look at this as what is the rental rate, because keep in mind, you're just leasing it with the option to buy. Length of time. Is this months, years? How long can we actually do this for? Monthly rental credit. This is optional. I don't really use this a lot. I know a lot of people do. I'm just not a huge fan of the rental credit. I think it sets some false expectations with the buyer. It really changes the whole game if there were ever a legal issue with title. So I really like to eliminate this out of the offer. But again, if you do use a rental credit, you definitely want to keep it low. Now, it's okay if you do that with the seller. I just would not do that with the new buyer. All right, so I pulled this property up that I want to use this as an example so we could go through and actually structure some offers and how we actually make money in this business. All right, so this is just a typical single family, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, just a typical middle of the road type of neighborhood, what we call C neighborhoods. Now, the great thing with lease options is that you can really work with those C, B, and A neighborhoods. So really typically, nice neighborhoods, nice areas. The condition of the properties definitely has to be livable. Somebody has to be able to live in it. It's not going to be a distressed property, and it can't be located in an area that we know a buyer's never going to go to the bank and put financing on the house. So generally speaking, we're going to work this strategy within nicer neighborhoods, which again is different and opposite of probably what you've learned out there for a seminar. Hey, you got to find a distressed property. Well, that's the needle in a haystack approach, where this business is so much bigger, and that's the one thing that I love about it. Now, what I want you to do is add this property to REI Pro and then go through the basic fundamentals, your due diligence of reviewing all of the information in step one. What did they buy it for? Is there a loan on it? What's that loan amount? Do they live out of state? So forth. And really start to feel the deal. I think the more information that you're equipped with, the better buying decisions that you're going to make. So let me tell you how I found the deal, because I want you to do the exact same thing. And this is not difficult. This is very simple. And I think, once I tell you exactly how I do it, then you could just go and duplicate it. So the very first thing is we go into REI Pro and we go to Lead Pro, and we're going to start searching absentee owners. Now, an absentee owner is nothing more than a person or a company that owns a property in your area but does not live there, so they receive their tax bill at a different address. Now, why would we think they would be motivated to sell? Well, why not? You don't know until you ask, and that's the thing. We could call them, we could send direct mail and market this particular seller. Maybe they're tired of tenants. Maybe they moved and they couldn't sell. There's so many different reasons. And keep in mind, it always comes back down to the situation. Did you know last week they weren't in divorce, but this week they are? Now their situation has changed. Now that what their decision of what they're going to do with the house has changed. And that's really key for us to understand that situation again. So I narrowed it down to single family homes. You could look at just about anything. If maybe you do row houses, or maybe you're into commercial, whatever it may be. I like single family, so that's the example. Next, I want you to start that middle of the road price. What is that average price where you live? And maybe start right in there. So in this particular area, between $200,000 to $300,000 would be kind of that middle range. And then our absentee owner flag, and you're going to find some of these filters underneath our More button. So I chose out of state. So I want to find the owner of properties here that actually received their tax bill outside of this state. Now, to me and everybody else, you could say, hey, the further they live away from the property, it's just that much more of a burden or concern that, hey, the property is so far away, I'm tired of dealing with it, and so forth. So choose out of state. You could also do in state, because it always is going to come back down to the situation. Ownership, I like to remove any kind of company-owned properties. I really like to deal with the homeowner themselves, and ultimately they're going to make that decision. LTV, which is loan to value. This is kind of neat and interesting, because a lot of people would never do this. So typically an investor, they're going to find a property that has either all equity, 100% equity, or a lot of equity. Well, with lease options, you're actually buying it on terms, not necessarily price. So I like to also target properties that don't have much equity. They have to have a little bit of equity, but not much equity. In this case, show me all the properties that have between 10 and 30% potential equity in the property. Now, that's great, because number one, if they don't have a lot of equity, they just can't, just sell it or unload it. And in their mind, they can't sell it or unload it because they don't have that much equity. By the time you include a realtor commission and the time and all of that stuff, in their mind, they may think that they can't sell. So a lease option would work perfect for this situation, and that's why I have that filter. All right, so how do we actually determine this offer to the seller? Well, number one, we want to run comparable sales to determine what this price is. What is the value based on what other homes in that area have sold for? Not what they're listed for, but what they actually sold for. So I ran the comps on this one, and it came out to $232,000. Also want you to check rental comps, because keep in mind, doing a lease option, you need to have a monthly payment, which is the rental rate. So definitely get the comps. Here we found out it was $1,400. And then check the condition of the property. Like I said, typically we're going to work this strategy with nicer homes, nicer areas. These are going to be homes that people can just move into. It may not have the perfect carpet or the perfect color scheme on the inside, but it is livable. People can actually live in the property. Let the buyer tenant actually make those small improvements to the property. That way they get to pick out what they want as far as colors and things. And then again, the owner's situation and motivation. So to determine our offer, these are really the components that we need to think about and do some research. And you could do most of this right inside of REI Pro. All right, so I'm going to start creating some multiple offers and start showing you, okay, now these are the offers to the seller. So keep that in mind. We're just not making one offer. We're going to make multiple offers to the seller. So that way they feel that they have to choose one. versus, I think I'll pass on this one. Nah, that's a little too low. Let's move on. So this gives them choices, gives them options, and you're going to start to see your acceptance ratio actually go up because now they feel they have to pick one, and they fail to realize they didn't have to take any of them to begin with. All right, so the first type of offer that I like to do, and this is really important because I really break these offers into what I call categories, different types of categories. Now, keep in mind, it's all lease option offers. So the first one I always like to do is based on a higher sales price because most sellers, they're looking to get as much as they possibly can for the property. And that's usually the first number that they're going to look at. When you wholesale, this is the only number they look at because you make a cash offer. So I know that sales price is most important to most people. Okay, not in every case, but most of the time sales price. So I always want to hit them with my first offer this way. I always want to lead my offers from a positive point of view instead of a negative point of view. And what I mean by that is if you start low on the sales price and maybe do something, shorter term or something, and then make your offer slowly get better as far as price, you've already set a bad expectation in the beginning. So I like to set that positive expectation right from the get-go. So sales price here would be $226. Now, this is exactly what they paid for the property. Now, keep in mind, the ARV came out to $232. It's after we ran comps. This is going to be a full price pretty much offer. There's not much equity here, but keep in mind, we don't make our money really based on the sales price. It's the terms. Sales price does matter, but it's really the terms of the deal. I always say don't penny pinch sellers. I see so many investors, they try to penny pinch these sellers of trying to make an extra $1,000 here or $5,000 there. You know what? I'm going to give you my best sales price right from the beginning. Down payment, or what we call option money. So this is a non-refundable down payment that is applied to the purchase price if we buy. So $2,000 monthly payment, $1,200. Now we ran the comps, it's $1,400. So I know that I need to come less than that because if I stay in the middle, I need to cash flow on this property. The one thing that you're going to notice, and I do this so much and it's just based on experience, is that I always like to keep that down payment higher than that monthly payment. And this would just be kind of the normal lease option offer across the board. And the reason why that I like doing it that way is because it already looks better than a security deposit, which would be refundable if the tenant took care of the property. Next is the term. How long do we want to go with the seller? I put 2 years. I love 2 years. You'll be surprised on how many sellers think, 2 years is good because they're thinking of turnover. They're thinking, okay, after a year, I'm going to have to go in and put more money into the property. Hey, with this deal, I've got up to 2 years and keep the same person in the property. So in their mind, they're getting payments for 2 years or up to 2 years because keep in mind, we could buy the property today all the way up to 2 years because it's a lease with option to buy. Again, monthly credit, I'm going to just eliminate that from this example. All right, now offer number 2. So that one was based on more of a higher sales price. Well, in this particular offer, I'm going to increase the down payment because keep in mind, when you're talking to the seller from the inspection point of view or you're at the property or talking to them on the phone, I want you to try to figure out where their pet peeve is. Is it the sales price? Is it the down payment, the monthly or length of term, and so forth? So I'm going to strengthen my offer with the down payment piece, but in doing so, I'm going to decrease the sales price. Now, I'm not going to decrease the sales price, the amount of the down payment, because that would be foolish because then every offer would be the same if you're just moving one number to the next. Because I know as an investor that my very first profit center with a lease option is the down payment. So the more that I have to give the seller, the less I'm going to make up front. And that's important to me because if I'm not going to make much money up front and I've got to work this deal and hope that I'm going to get paid later down the road, I don't feel real good about that. So I wanted to get paid up front so I can work the deal and then also get paid a little bit more down the road. So if I'm going to do that, I'm going to have to come down on price because if I'm not going to make much up front, I'm going to make a lot more on the back. Monthly payment we'll keep at the $1,200 just to kind of set that expectation. Really, the big difference here is we're changing the sales price. We're changing the down payment because, hey, maybe the seller just says, look, I need some more cash. I need some moving expenses. I need to pay some bills, whatever it may be. They just need more down. And as long as it's within reason. Now, keep that in mind. If you had a seller say, Chris, I need $50,000 down, well, that's not going to work. So maybe $50,000 down on a seller finance on $1 million house. Maybe that would make more sense. Now, you'll also see the term. I went 3 years. So I want to go a little bit longer term on this because if they choose, hey, Chris, I need more money down. Well, okay, if you want more money down, then I want more time over here, and I want to make a little bit more on the sales price. Long time ago, I can't remember who told me this, but it's always stuck in my head, so I'll tell it to you, is if the seller picks the sales price, you pick the terms. If the seller picks the terms, you pick the sales price. If the seller picks both, check up in 30 days because their situation may change, okay? So I want to try to get 3 years on this property. The great thing with asking for 3 years is what happens if they come back and say, well, I can't go 3, but I could do 2. Okay, we'll do 2. So again, you can move these numbers around in a lot of different ways. Again, the monthly credit we're going to eliminate from this example. All right, now offer number 3. This is going to be based on a higher monthly payment. So if the seller just has a high monthly payment, maybe they bought at the wrong time, maybe they have a higher interest rate, maybe they took out a home equity line of credit and they've got to pay that back, whatever it may be, we're now going to increase that monthly payment. Now, this is going to be a kicker too, because I want to explain here. So now I moved the sales price back up instead of $215 to $220. The down payment, $2,000. Then I moved the monthly payment up to $1,400. Now, like I said before, the house only rents for $1,400. So you're really not going to make cash flow. So you have to ask yourself, number one, am I going to make enough money through the down payment and the sales price to stay in the middle of this deal? Because you don't have to stay in the middle of this deal. You could just assign the deal over to the new buyer as is and just collect the difference in down payment, move on, and good luck to both of you. So you'll have to make those decisions. Here's the thing with cash flow. Even in a great scenario, you're making a couple $100 per month. A couple $100 per month is not going to change my life. But the difference in down payment will. And the difference in sales price will as well. So I'm not monthly payment's not a huge concern of mine. But again, that's a choice you'll have to make is it worth my time sitting in the middle when I'm not making any cash flow on the property? We could go 2 years on this property. Again, monthly credit we're going to eliminate. And then I want to do one more type of offer, and this is based on a shorter term. So this is the seller that's like, hey, Chris, I like the numbers. The one thing that I can't really accept is the length of time. I can't go 2 years. I can't go 3 years and wait that long. I need a shorter period of time. It's okay. No problem. We'll give you a shorter period of time. I set the price at $220, but I'm going to go $1,000 down. So this is going to be my lowest down payment. Keep in mind, my first profit center is the down payment. And if I can't go longer term, I need to get most of my money up front. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Monthly payment I also reduced here to $1,100 because if I can't potentially go out 2 or 3 years on this property, I'm going to lose money. So I need to make a little bit more on the cash flow side. So the seller ultimately is going to get cashed out within that year. They're just not going to get as a big enough down payment as they wanted or the previous offers, and their monthly payment's going to be a little bit less. Now, again, you could structure these numbers in a lot of different ways to make it work. That's the beauty of this. You could change the sales price by $1,000 and it would be a different offer. All right, so just to kind of compare and show you a recap here of all 4 offers, you can see there, offer number 1, the sales price is going to be the highest. Now, I know from experience that that's the number 1 thing that sellers look at, okay? And what I'm doing here is almost telling the seller to choose number 1. I'm going to make money no matter which offer they accept, but I know that I'm kind of steering or leading them to take this one offer. Offer number 2, you're going to make less on the sales price, but I'm going to give you a little bit more money down. But I also need a longer term. Offer number 3, I'm going to pay you more per month, and I could pay you a little bit more on the sales price, but that's about all I could do. Now, this is also a really good option for a seller. Now, although they're going to make $6,000 less on the sales price, they need that monthly payment covered. And to me, honestly, that's not a big deal. If, $200 a month is $2,400, not a big deal. I'll make my money back on the sales price. And then we have offer number 4, which is our shortest term of 1 year. We'll keep it at $220, but the down payment's going to come down and the monthly payment's going to come down. So if that seller's like, Chris, that's fine. I've got to get rid of this thing as quickly as possible. Bam, they take offer number 4. Now, there's a couple of offers here that I know that the seller's going to pay more attention to, and that's going to be offer number 1 and offer number 3. Okay, so they're really, really strong offers. And again, a lot of this is going to be based on their situation, but that's what we're doing here. We are literally hitting all of those potential situations or pet peeves, as I call it, that a seller could possibly have. Now, if the seller comes back and wants full price, the max amount, down payment, the max month, and the shortest term, well, it's just not a deal. You have to move on. Let me call you back in 30 days because we just can't do that. But the beauty of making these types of offers and 4 offers and hitting them in different angles, you're more likely to have the seller say yes to one of them. Or they may negotiate a little bit on one of them. And it gives them the option now. Instead of the typical investor that goes out there and makes one offer, take it or leave it approach, you now have 4 multiple offers that you can present to the seller. Now, for this example, the seller chose number 1 because I know 90% of the time they're going to choose this one, and that's just simply based on doing hundreds of these. So here's the terms: $226, $2,000 down, $1,200 a month, 2-year term. Now, keep in mind, I'm not going to pay them the $2,000 down until I get the money from the new buyer. Okay? So how do we structure the numbers for the new buyer? Well, let me show you. This is very simple to do. So number 1, obviously determine the sales price. And this is what I call the future price. Keep in mind, the ARV on this property is $232. So if you're not going to buy it today, why would I sell it to you for $232? And a lot of people, America runs on terms. Everything we buy, we pay more for if we have to make monthly payments. Think about the mortgage you have on your own property. If you live in it for 30 years, you're going to pay 3 times the amount just in interest. If you have a credit card, you're paying interest. If you have you got financing for your vehicle, you're paying interest. So you're paying ultimately more for something because you need it broken down into payments. So we already know, and buyers already know, that they're going to pay a little bit more if we have to do payments, which, again, this is what a lease option strategy is. All right, so the down payment. Now, I want you to keep in mind, obviously, it has to be more than what you promised the seller. Otherwise, you're not going to make any money there. But this is your first profit center. This is day 1 you get paid. So as soon as I put the house under contract with the seller, put the house under contract with the buyer, that's the day that I get paid. That's also the day that the seller gets paid through their down payment. And that's the day the buyer moves in. So everybody is happy. Determine the monthly payment, and this is really going to go back to the rental rate. Now, I know a lot of investors, they increase this by a little, but the last thing that I want to do is stress out that buyer that can't really pay that extra $100 or $200 per month over what the rental rate is. And it really does set the wrong expectation to the point of they feel that they're paying more each month for something. Now, they'll pay a little more on the sales price, but the monthly, that bothers people. Okay, so I really like to keep this down at the rental rate. Determine how long are we going to do this with the new buyer. So never, ever go longer than a year. Now, if you need more time or if the buyer needs more time, extend the agreement as long as you have more time with the seller. So if we have 2 years with the seller and we put a buyer in for 1 year and they can't buy, well, you have some options. You have multiple things that you could do at this point. You could extend the agreement with the current tenant. because you still have another year. You could put a for sale by owner sign and just sell the property. Maybe the market went up, whatever it may be, because remember, you also have the option to buy or not buy. You could find a new buyer that's going to put more money down. Ultimately, you just make more money that way. So there's a lot of different things that you could do with this property if the buyer can't close within that year. Again, our goal is to help these buyers out, get them with a local mortgage broker from the beginning, and let them design a plan of action to get these people qualified. All right, let's go ahead and set the terms now for the new buyer. So the sales price, $235, and I set this because I know the ARV is $232. I'm going to go a little bit above. I wouldn't be ridiculous here. I see too many investors that, $240, $250. I really would just not stretch it that much, because keep in mind, when the buyer is getting ready to buy, the house will still have to appraise. And if you go way too far over this number, it's just not going to make financial sense to anybody. Down payment, I want to get $8,000 down. Now, would I take 7? Possibly. Would I take more? Possibly. But this 8 number is going to be good for this range of sales price. Monthly payment is going to be $1,400. That's what the rental comp is. That's what these houses rent for, and that's what they're going to pay. Term of 1 year. Keep in mind, we're only going to put them on a 1-year term. Now let's actually compare both offers. So now we have the seller and you. We're buying it for $226, $2,000 down. Keep in mind that that is credited to the purchase price. Monthly payment of $1,200. We're going to do this for a term of 2 years, meaning that we have up to 2 years. If my buyer cashes me out in 3 months from now, well, we cash the seller out in 3 months from now. We just have 2 years if we need it. Then we set the terms for you and the new buyer. Sales price $235, down payment of $8. Keep in mind that $8,000 is credited towards the $235, monthly rent of $1,400, the term of 1 year. Now we have 3 profit centers here, so I want to explain these profit centers. So the first one is the difference in down payment. So the new buyer's paying us $8. At that time, we will then pay the seller their $2, ultimately leaving us a profit of $6,000. Profit center number 2, monthly payment difference. New buyer's paying us $1,400 a month. We're turning around and paying the seller $1,200, giving us a $200 a month positive cash flow. And then the last profit center is the difference in sales price. Now, this is a lot of people get confused on this, but it's actually very simple. Just keep in mind that the down payment is credited. So the new buyer's buying it from me for $235 minus $8, they would owe $227. So when they go and get financing, they're actually financing the $227. Now to the seller, we've agreed to pay $226 with $2,000 down. We owe the seller $224 in this example. So you can see there's not a lot of profit in this deal, but also keep in mind we pretty much paid up to full price on a nice house in a nice neighborhood, ultimately leaving us a better quality buyer or tenant in the property. Total profit, number 1, $6,000. On the day you do this, you're going to get a check for $6,000. You're also going to make $200 a month. If it were to go the full 12 months, you would make $2,400, and then $3,000 on the sales price. So not a lot there. We got the majority of our money up front, which I always like. Total profit on that is $11,400. So it's not a home run. It's not a, oh my gosh, change my life type of paycheck. But keep in mind a couple of things. You don't own the home or have any money invested in the property. So this didn't cost me a penny. This took knowledge and this took time. What's your ROI on something you have no money invested in? And that is a home run to me. That's why this is one of my favorite strategies, is your ROI is so large because you have no money invested in this property. Multiple offers will increase your acceptance ratio. So yes, you're not making a home run on this particular example, but we could structure these numbers in a lot of different ways. And how many of these deals would you have to do in a year to replace your current income? You could see you could do so many more of these types of deals. You're working with nicer homes, nicer neighborhoods. You're working with a different pool of buyers out there as well. There's a lot of people out there that can't go to the bank. Maybe self-employment, a debt-to-income ratio, whatever it is, they just need a little bit of time. Just some final thoughts for you. Find situations, not houses. Obviously, you're looking for houses, which will lead to talking with the owner to find out their situation. But the situation in itself is really the most important, because that's going to help you structure these offers the smartest way, because you need yeses. You don't need no's, you need yeses. I remember, I made this one deal happen. I made $1,000. I knew it wasn't going to make much money on it, but the sellers were 70 years old. They couldn't sell the property. They were just completely stressed out. And I went in there and I knew how to put the deal together. It wasn't a home run deal, but man, it sure does make you feel good when you can go out there and help so many people with the education and what you know how to do. And this is a much needed service in the industry. There's not a lot of people that would even know how to even structure deals like this. So I want you to take this education and go back through this training video. I want you to really pay attention and get this education, because you can go out there and help so many different people with it. Obviously, we're going to create multiple offers. Now, although this was a multiple offer lease option offer, you can make multiple offers such as a cash offer, a lease option offer, and a seller finance offer as well. The biggest point here, it's going to increase your acceptance ratio. And I also want you to think about your exit strategy before you make the offer. So if I make this offer and get it accepted, what am I going to do with it? Okay, so I want you to think about that and what type of buyer is going to be here, what type of neighborhood, is school's good. I want you to take everything in because it's going to help you close this deal so much faster. If you want to attend one of our live events, definitely go to reisuccessconference.com, where we go in extreme detail and we lay it out in a way that probably have never been taught before. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. And again, go back through this, because maybe you picked up a couple of things, but you really need to go back and listen to how I said certain things, because it's really, at the end of the day, step 4, and you'll find this in REI Pro, step 4, making offers, is one of the most important things that you could do. And I promise you, without making an offer, you're never going to make money in this business. So get out there, make the right offers. It's not about just shooting the offer over to the seller and hope that they take it, okay? Get out there, make it make sense, and I look forward to seeing you on our next training video.